All right, everyone, we're back for part two. I left off talking about meter and rhythm. So we are going to concern ourselves with only one kind of meter. And to reiterate, meter is about the repeating presence of stressed and unstressed events. There are a couple kinds of meters that we'll encounter, but again, we're going to just draw our attention to one particular metric construct, and that is the one that we hear most often, especially in popular music, and that is simple meter. So simple meter is a meter in which we are listening to groupings or divisions of two. And there are a number of ways that we can express simple meter in a time signature. A reminder, a time signature is a ratio that starts off a piece of music. It's a number over another number. The top number is always the number of beats that are in each measure, a sort of distinct unit of time. And the bottom number is what gets the sort of beat or the pulse. How many pulses, what gets the pulse? That's the equation. Time signature. How many pulses, what gets the pulse? The most common time signature and the most common metric field that we hear is generally expressed in the time signature 4/4. It's something that we call common time. No big surprise, it shows up very, very commonly. However, there's a number of different things that you can do within simple time. So let's talk about what simple time looks like and how to even use notation in regards to simple time. Let me toggle over to my whiteboard. Okay, so whiteboard time. Time signatures. So it always appears as a number over another number. And the top number is the number of beats in a measure. A measure is a prescribed amount of time. I'll show you what a measure kind of looks like. And the bottom number is what gets the beat. And this number has to relate to the rhythm tree. So there are only a couple of options for numbers that you can have on the bottom. Most commonly we encounter 2, 4, 8, and 16 as bottom numbers. The top number can be whatever you wish. However, the one time signature that we're going to be most interested in is the most common one. Common time, which is usually expressed as a C at the beginning of a piece, or again, the time signature 4/4. All right, common time or 4/4. So common time also happens to be an example of what we call simple time. And simple time divides out or groups things into groupings of 2. Okay, well, what does that mean in regards to a time signature? Well, again, a time signature, like I said, is expressed as a ratio, a number over a number. We said that this one is the most common one that we listen to. So what does a measure, a unit of 4/4 look like? Well, there are 4 beats in the measure, and what gets the beat? 4. Okay, well, what does 4 stand in for? In regards to the rhythm tree, the 4 stands in for the value of a quarter note. This literally means that there are 4 quarter notes in every measure or set duration. So we're listening or looking at a piece of sheet music. 4/4 starts off our piece. Here we have 2 measures of music. This right here is something we call a measure. It is a set duration that is based off of this very idea. So what this says is that every measure has 1, 2, 3, 4 quarter notes in it, or rather, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 main beats in the measure. I'll fill out another measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So time signature tells us what meter we're listening to, and a meter is, like in poetry, if we were like listening to or reading a piece that's an iambic pentameter, that means that we're listening to something that has a combination of stressed and unstressed events. So it tells us, meter tells us what is stressed and what is unstressed. Great. So in 4/4, we have a natural stress structure. Measure or beat 1 is always the most important. It is always the most stress. We have the most emphasis at the very beginning of the measure. Why? It's how are we to know what meter we are in unless we know where we are starting? So 1 is the beat that is most accented, followed by beat 3. Why? It divides our meter into 2 groupings of 2. 4 is the next most stressed event because it literally leads to beat 1 of the next measure, which means 2 is the least stressed. So in terms of importance, it goes 1, 3, 4, 2. So in a meter, and specifically simple meter, shows up with this kind of a stress relationship. So simple meter, like if my clapping is a quarter note, this is pulse, 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 or beat, 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 beat. A measure 4/4, or if we were in simple meter, would sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, where we're placing emphasis on 1. The next stress level that we hear is going to be on 3, which divides our beat structure into, or groups them into 2, right? So we have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 as a secondary layer that's ongoing. So simple meter, for this reason, has this very like kind of every other feel to it. There's this kind of feeling of marching that's happening in the piece of music. And we're going to survey this very feeling in music through 10 different listening examples from the 1980s. So before we sign off for this particular segment, let us go ahead and listen to 2 different examples. And then we'll do the other ones in the subsequent parts. However, the thing that we're still going to be concerned about is what's happening texturally in these pieces of music. So to review, monophonic, homophonic, heterophonic, and polyphonic. We're going to draw out that same chart that we did this last time. So we're going to be paying attention to 2 different things in pieces of music now. How many layers are ongoing at a piece during the music at a given moment? And then 2, what rhythm and meter are we listening to? Everything is going to be the same for today. It's going to be simple meter, which is going to result in a very sort of back and forth feel. How are you trying to like figure out what the pulse is, or what even to like identify as perhaps the bottom number of our time signature? Very simply put, usually the pulse is the duration that you hear most frequently in a piece of music. It's also generally the thing that you want to tap your foot to. So in the corner, which is nice in these videos, you're gonna also hopefully hear me overlay some of my counting on top of these different pieces of music. I will start by just showing you what the pulse is, and then trying to show you where the main stress is happening. In 4/4 or simple meter, we're hearing an every other sort of pulse structure or every 4. And it's going to become a little bit more apparent when we actually go through some listening examples. So we're going to start off with the beginning of the 1980s, really 1979 into 1980, some classic hip hop by the Sugar Hill Gang. So let me pull that up real quick.
To the boogity bang bang, the boogie to the boogity beat. Now what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat. And me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I like to say hello. Up to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple, and yellow. But first, I gotta bang bang, the boogie to the boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop, rock the rhythm, and make your body rock. Well, so far you've heard my voice, but I brought two friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, Hank, sing that song. Check it out. When I'm pimp the dimp, the ladies pimp, the women fight for my delight. But I'm the grand master with the 3 MCs that shop the house for the young ladies. And when you come inside and to the front, they do the freaks bang, they do the bump. And when the sucker MCs try to prove a point with Trevor's trio, or with a serious joint, from sun to sun and from day to day, I sit down and write a brand new rhyme because they say that miracles never cease. I've created a devastating masterpiece. I'm gonna rock the mic so you can't resist. Everybody, I say it goes like this. When I was coming home late one dark afternoon, the reporter stopped me for an interview. She said she's heard stories and she's heard fables that are vicious on the mic and the turntable. This young reporter I did adore, so I rocked the vicious rhyme like I never did before. She said, damn fly guy, I'm in love with you. The Casanova legend must have been true. I said, by the way, baby, what's your name? Said I go by the name Lois Lane, and you can be my boyfriend, you surely can. Just let me quit my boyfriend called Superman. I said, he's a fairy, I do suppose, flying through the air, the pantyhose, he may be very sexy or
So it's mostly about one person delivering vocals and everything supporting that idea. So hopefully you arrived at the realization that this is mostly homophonic in texture. And hopefully you also heard that it is simple in meter. It's got this every other sort of feel to it. The first thing that I did is I found the pulse, the thing that the most represented duration that's happening, and then figured out where the accented events start. Usually the beginning of lyrics start on beat 1. Also, ostinatos, repeating musical figures, which are usually in the accompaniment, help us figure out where 1 cycles back to fairly consistently. Let's go ahead and toggle to my whiteboard and we'll draw out texture because we're still going to be interested in trying to figure that out today.